Superstorm Sandy left the Jersey Shore in ruins, and more than 3 years after the devastation caused by Sandy, thousands of New Jersey residents are still waiting to rebuild their homes and their lives. Joining us now to talk about the latest on the Sandy recovery effort is my co-anchor on New Jersey Capitol Report, Steve Adubato. Steve, welcome.
It's good to be here, Ralph.
Now, Steve, you own a home on the Jersey Shore. You spent a lot of time there, especially in the summer. How are things going after Sandy there? Is the recovery being felt by the residents and the businesses there?
It's devastating for a lot of people, and we're in a little town called Lavalette. It had a decent dune in front, protecting people from Sandy. It's not that bad. Next town over, it's called Ortley Beach. It's devastated. I mean, the town has been devastated. There were so many people, dozens and dozens of people lost their homes. Town by town, Manaloking, a couple towns up. It's unbelievable. You have blocks where you can see from Route 35, which is the major thoroughfare going down the Jersey Shore, right onto the ocean, meaning those homes are no longer there. These are multi-million-dollar homes in Manaloking, but down in Ortley Beach, these are working-class people, not multi-million-dollar homes. So there's a whole range, and it really depends upon what kind of protection you had, where the storm hit. Ultimately, tens of thousands of people and businesses, homeowners and businesses, still out of their homes 3 years later.
Why? Why 3 years later? I remember, and I know you remember, when the Governor Christie, and the President got together, embraced and promised that they would fix things, whatever it took. 3 years later, apparently not.
It really goes to show you that even if a governor and a president, a Democrat and Republican, the Republican governor and a Democratic president, they say they want to work together, I believe they have good intentions. But it also shows you, Raf, that a governor and a president can only do so much, that the bureaucracy has to do a lot. You've got FEMA, the federal agency, involved. You've got HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, on the federal agency involved. You've got the Department of Community Affairs on the state end involved. You've got all these multiple programs having to work together. Everyone having to come together. This is post-Katrina. This was never supposed to happen again. And I think to myself, even when Democrats and Republicans say they want to work together in elected positions, the bureaucrats have to come together. There were delays with the flood maps. There were delays in having people document that they actually lost what they say they lost. Ultimately, if I were a homeowner and I couldn't get back in my home, I wouldn't want to listen to any of this. A lot of it's red tape and bureaucracy. It's government frankly, in my opinion, at its worst.
But, there's an organization called Stop FEMA Now. Why would you want to stop FEMA? I mean, that's the organization that's supposed to help you. What is that organization? What's its goals?
FEMA, when something like this happens, you have to point your anger at someone or something. And FEMA is this agency that tries to come in and do the right thing on the federal end. And George Casimos is a guy that you and I spoke to on Capitol Report. He came on the program. Listen, they say they want to stop FEMA, but the truth is, in many ways, they want FEMA to do what FEMA needs to do to get people back in their homes. This is what George said about the flood maps and about what, frankly, the problem is with FEMA. Here's the tape.
We don't talk about how much paperwork you have. It's how high it is. 6 inches, 12 inches, a foot and a half
what
of
does it
paperwork.
do to people? George, what does it do to people?
It wears you out. A lot of people are still living out of a garbage bag, still living in temporary homes.
3 years after.
3 years. And they keep getting changes. And think about it. Now FEMA comes in with another change. It costs you another $100,000 more, $100,000 to raise it at a different level, from an A zone to a V zone. And then there's no answers. It keeps changing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the A zone, the Z zone. Listen, I can understand a guy like George or anyone else who's a citizen. They pay their taxes. They paid for the flood insurance. And FEMA comes in and says, we're going to change the maps. But I also understand FEMA saying we need to change the maps because after the Hurricane Sandy, we need to say that it's more dangerous.
Right.
But also the New Jersey congressional delegation went to FEMA. They sent the head of FEMA, Craig Fugate, they sent him a letter saying, we totally challenge your flood maps. We think they're inaccurate. And every member of the congressional delegation, except for one, Scott Garrett, Congressman Garrett, who has many, many communities up in northern New Jersey affected by Sandy, he didn't sign it. And they said, look, we reject your maps. We think people are going to pay higher insurance because ultimately it's the maps who dictate what your flood insurance is. Listen, Ralph, it's easy to blame government, but it's government that has to fix it.
Is that going to have any effect?
What?
Is that letter going to have any effect, the letter from the Congress people?
If President Obama and if the Republican Congress steps in, if the House steps in and wants to do something about this, I think it could have an impact if there's bipartisan cooperation. To date, there hasn't been that level of cooperation.
Okay, in the last few seconds we have, what's your sense? What's going to happen? The people who are still recovering, how are they going to do in 2016?
You know, it's easy to say, ask people to be patient, but I actually believe that it's going to take more than several years for people to be ultimately back in their homes. And the thing is, if government can't find alternative places for those people to live, I believe more and more of them are going to have to ask themselves this question: should I try to take the money from the government in some sort of buyout and find another place to live? It's easy for me to say that because I can go back into my home down there. But ultimately, the government is going to have to be honest with people about how long it's really going to take and whether, in fact, they can get people back in their homes. It's a very tough call. People are suffering.
All right, Steve, thanks so much.
You got it, Ralph.